In April 1912, the colossal Titanic awaited its maiden voyage, shining in the pale morning light as crowds sprang to life at Southampton's busy port. Luggage clattered, children laughed, and hopeful voices filled the air as hundreds of passengers prepared to set sail toward America, chasing their dreams across the sea. Rose DeWitt Bucator arrived in a grand car, her every step watched by her strict mother and controlling fiancé, Cal Hockley. From the outside, Rose's life seemed perfect. She wore the most elegant dresses, admired by everyone around her. Yet inside, she felt trapped, her own desires drowned out by expectations and appearances. As she gazed at the ship, Rose couldn't help feeling both dread and curiosity about what lay ahead. Elsewhere in the bustling crowd, Jack Dawson celebrated with his closest friend, Fabrizio. Just hours before, he had won 2 third-class tickets in a smoky poker game, his luck turning in an instant. For Jack, a penniless artist, Titanic represented more than a voyage. It was hope, adventure, and the possibility of a life never lived before. He had spent his life drifting from city to city, capturing moments in his sketchbook, never belonging, always searching. Once aboard, Rose was overwhelmed by the ship's dazzling luxury. Endless marble corridors, golden lights, elegant dinners with strangers whispering in French. But every smile and toast felt false. That afternoon, she wandered quietly onto the deck, the ocean's vastness tugging at her soul. Far below, laughter and music spilled from the third-class quarters, where Jack and Fabrizio explored every corner of the ship's lively, humble world. As the Titanic's whistle boomed, casting the ship into the open sea, Rose pressed her gloved hand to the railing, her heart heavy with longing for escape. Jack, standing far below, grinned at the wind in his hair, shouting out, "I'm the king of the world." The journey began with thousands dreaming, none suspecting how their fate would soon be entangled. Just as the sun dipped below the horizon, Rose's eyes wandered over the railings, searching for a sign of freedom, of hope of herself. Unknowingly, her gaze passed over Jack, laughing in the evening light. Neither could guess that soon their worlds would collide, and nothing would ever be the same. The days passed in a slow, dazzling rhythm. For Rose, each morning brought endless routines, dresses chosen by her mother, quiet meals beside Cal, and lessons in how to be the perfect society wife. The Titanic itself was magnificent, but Rose felt more and more lost each day, as if the beauty around her only made her own emptiness larger. One gloomy evening, after an argument with her mother, Rose wandered to the ship's stern, desperate for a moment alone. The sky was draped with stars, the vast ocean stretching endlessly in every direction. Overwhelmed by loneliness and fear for her future, Rose stood at the rail, letting the cold night air fill her lungs. Jack, restless and unable to sleep, had gone for a walk, hoping for inspiration or adventure. He saw Rose leaning dangerously far over the rail, the moonlight reflecting off her dress. Instinctively, Jack hurried forward and called out, "Don't do it." Startled, Rose turned, her cheeks wet with tears. They spoke for the first time, Jack's gentle concern breaking through Rose's walls. She confessed her despair and how trapped she felt, while Jack talked about his life of freedom and the joy he found in every small adventure. Despite the world of differences between them, something unspoken passed between their eyes. Hope, trust, and maybe the beginnings of friendship. Jack helped Rose back over the rail, and soon, ship officers arrived, suspicious of the scene. Rose, still shaken but grateful, claimed Jack had saved her from falling. Cal, her mother, and the ship's crew hurried in, creating a fuss, but Rose insisted Jack be thanked for his bravery. That unusual night, 2 worlds brushed together for the first time. Jack was invited to dinner as a thank you, and Rose, secretly, couldn't stop thinking about the kind-hearted boy who saw her as more than just a beautiful face in a golden cage. The ocean stretched into darkness, Titanic moving ever forward, while Jack and Rose lay awake in their separate cabins, destinies forever changed after a moment at the ship's rails. The following evening, Jack nervously prepared for the first-class dinner he had been invited to as a gesture of gratitude. Fabrizio straightened Jack's old borrowed jacket, joking about how out of place he looked beside the rich and powerful. Meanwhile, Rose, surrounded by diamonds and fine silks, was anxiously excited, wishing to see Jack again. someone who made her feel alive and seen. The grand dining hall glowed with golden chandeliers. Rose's mother and Cal watched Jack with suspicion, trying to hide their contempt behind polite smiles. Jack, though uncomfortable at first, charmed the guests with stories of his travels and his art. Rose laughed in a way she hadn't in years, and for a few brief hours, the rules of class did not exist. Jack showed her drawings of Paris, of laughter, and life as he'd seen it, unfiltered and authentic. After dinner, Jack invited Rose to experience a different side of the ship. With a whisper and a smile, she followed him down to the lively third-class party, music swirling, people dancing, everyone living in the moment. Jack taught Rose to dance and let loose, her laughter echoing above the sound of fiddles as she lost herself in joy. For the first time, Rose felt free from the world's expectations. She thanked Jack for showing her a life beyond gilded walls. "You're so afraid to be a regular person," Jack told her gently, "but being you is enough." But as the hours slipped by and the night grew late, reality returned. Rose's mother and Cal, realizing she was missing, searched the ship in a panic. When they finally found her, Cal pulled her away, furious at Jack's influence. Rose was reminded of the world she belonged to, a world that would not let her be herself. Yet in her heart, she knew she could never see things the same way again. Jack and Rose's lives had crossed at the edge of the world, and neither could turn back. The Titanic sailed onward into the cold Atlantic night, its fate, and the fate of everyone on board, drawing ever closer to a moment that would change history. After the wild night in third class, a secret world bloomed between Jack and Rose. Whenever they could steal a few moments away from watchful eyes, they would meet, on the windy decks, in quiet corridors, or beneath the vast sky. Rose saw in Jack the life she always wanted, simple, honest, and filled with passion. Jack, in turn, was inspired by Rose's intelligence and her hidden strength. But trouble brewed beneath the ship's surface. Cal grew more jealous and determined to keep Rose close, watching her every move. Rose's mother warned her of the consequences, a life of shame, poverty, and exile, should she refuse her family's plans. Despite the risks, Rose found herself unable to stay away from Jack. One night, desperate to be truly free, Rose asked Jack to draw her portrait. "Like one of your French girls," she whispered shyly, giving him her heart for safekeeping. In that quiet room, with only pencils and soft light, Jack captured Rose's true spirit, the courage to follow her own heart. Afterward, the pair escaped from Cal's men, racing through the endless corridors of the Titanic. They laughed, breathless and happy, finally reaching the bow of the ship. Standing together at the edge of the world, Rose leaned into the wind, and Jack held her arms wide. "I'm flying, Jack!" she cried, her worries forgotten, if only for a moment. Yet even as they embraced, the Titanic sailed deeper into icy waters. Late that night, in the black cold, a watchman spotted a ghostly shape ahead, an iceberg, massive and unforgiving. The crew rushed to turn the ship, but it was too late. The iceberg scraped along the starboard side, opening the Titanic's hull. At first, the danger seemed distant. But deep below, seawater poured into the great ship, and the fate of everyone on board began to change. Jack and Rose, lost in their newfound love, didn't yet realize that the greatest test of their hearts and their lives was about to begin. Late on the night of April 14th, 1912, Titanic sailed swiftly through the frigid North Atlantic, stars glittering overhead and the ocean perfectly still. Most passengers were asleep or celebrating in the grand halls, never suspecting any danger. Jack and Rose, hand in hand, whispered together on the darkened deck, dreaming of a future that suddenly felt possible. Suddenly, a sharp jolt ran through the ship, like a powerful shudder beneath their feet. The decks trembled, and distant voices called out in confusion. Far above, lookouts had spotted a massive iceberg only seconds before impact. The crew had desperately tried to turn, but it was too late. At 23:40, Titanic's starboard side scraped hard against the unforgiving ice, tearing open her hull. At first, the damage seemed minor, just a strange noise, a faint vibration. But deep below, icy water rushed in, flooding compartment after compartment. Crewmen hurried through the corridors, knocking on doors, urging passengers to stay calm, insisting there was nothing to fear. Yet soon the truth began to dawn. The great ship, once believed unsinkable, was in grave danger. Jack and Rose realized the seriousness of the disaster as more and more passengers poured onto the decks, confusion turning slowly into fear. Officers raced to uncover the lifeboats. Lifebelts were handed out. Cal and Rose's mother tried to pull Rose away, but she refused to leave Jack behind, declaring her love openly, shocking her family. Jack and Rose navigated the panicked crowds, helping others to the lifeboats, searching for safety in the chaos. Lights flickered, and the stern began to tilt upward as the bow sank lower, water pouring through Titanic's elegant hulls. Hope faded to terror as the ship made her final stand against the freezing sea. In the chaos, Jack and Rose made a desperate promise to always remember this love, no matter what the dawn would bring. As orders rang out and the band played on through the night, Titanic began her final descent beneath the icy waves, forever changing all on board. As the Titanic slipped deeper into the icy Atlantic, the decks tilted sharply, screams echoed through the dark, and the cold seemed to pierce straight to the bone. Panic merged with despair as passengers scrambled for the remaining lifeboats. Crew shouted, boats lowered unevenly, chaos everywhere. Only a fraction of those aboard would know safety. Jack gripped Rose's hand as they wove through terrified crowds. Ice formed in Rose's hair. Every breath burned in her lungs, but she would not let go. In the swirl of chaos, an officer spotted Rose and tried to force her into a lifeboat, but she resisted. Tears rolled down her cheeks as Jack pleaded, "Rose, you must go. You have to promise me you'll never give up, no matter what happens." Rose's eyes locked onto Jack's. Her world was falling apart, but in that moment, all she saw was him, kind, brave, and selfless, urging her on. "I promise," she whispered, voice trembling. "I'll never let go, Jack. I'll never let go." With a final, desperate embrace, the lifeboat lowered and Jack slipped from her grasp, swallowed by the mass of struggling souls on the sinking ship. Water began to rise rapidly, icy and merciless. Jack fought to guide Rose back to the upper decks, pushing through the flooding corridors and collapsing stairways. The once glittering ship, filled with laughter days before, was now a nightmare of water and cold. They struggled together, finally reaching the stern as it rose high above the water, Titanic's grand frame creaking and groaning. In the final minutes, they clung to the edge, facing the freezing sea. The ship shuddered, cracked, and broke apart, casting hundreds into the blackness. Jack and Rose plunged into the ocean, icy water knocking the air from their lungs. In the chaos, Jack found a piece of floating debris and helped Rose climb aboard. He remained in the water, holding her hand, gently speaking to keep her awake as the cold tried to claim her mind. Survivors screamed in the darkness, voices fading one by one. The ocean was merciless and silent, the stars above bright and uncaring. Jack's words grew weaker, but his eyes never left Rose's. "Promise me you'll survive, that you'll get out of here and never forget, that you'll live a long, beautiful life. Do that for me, Rose." Rose sobbed quietly, clutching his frozen fingers. "I promise, Jack. I'll never forget." As dawn broke over the endless ocean, rescue boats appeared. Rose, nearly lost to the cold, called out with the last of her strength for help. Jack, silent now, drifted below the waves, his promise carried on the wind. Rescued at the very edge of hope, Rose was pulled aboard a lifeboat, shivering and broken but alive. As the Carpathia carried her away, she held on to Jack's memory, the love they had shared, and her promise to keep going. Years later, Rose would remember that night, the boy who saved her soul, and the ship that became their world. She kept her promise. She lived, she loved, she remembered. And in her heart, Jack Dawson always sailed with her beneath the endless, starlit sky.